WarblesOnALot to the three blockers. Gary at inmendham, theticketybooboo, and iremythpurr. There were three people who could not stand what I had to say on their comment thread, so they just had to block me, and I just have to reply. Because in my limited experience, I've decided that blocking is a sign of control freakism. It's a sign of intolerance and shallow egocentricity. It's a sign of individuals who are unable to cope with dissent, and therefore they are willing to present a censored and a tailored and an edited view of humanity's reaction to whatever it was that they put on YouTube. They can't cope with the actual reaction, so they amputate anything that they don't like and they present a cover story. So, when the fragile egomaniac blocks the other YouTube user, who, let's face it, took time out of their day to actually pay attention, look at the clip and then leave a comment, it leaves the blocked individual somewhat disgruntled, and there's two ways they can deal with the disgruntlement. They can rationalise it and say, well, I have been blocked, so I have obviously won the contest because the person who has blocked me couldn't cope with what I had to say. They are an intellectual pygmy. The other way of dealing with it is to build up a head of steam until you just can't resist and you have to post a clip telling the blocker what you think of them. And of course, as soon as you do that, it means the blocker has won, because the secondary gain to their egocentric action is that somebody makes another clip with the blocker's name in the clip they posted. It causes a whole bunch of people who are otherwise unaware of the conflict to check it out, look at both clips. The blocker's movie view count goes up, possibly their channel view count goes up, and the attention seeker has in fact drawn attention to themselves. They have won their secondary gain. Dear oh dear. So, as it happens, I have a personal psychopathological horror of being misunderstood, and therefore, thus, and because, you bloody got me. I'm making this clip and posting it to you three who blocked me. So, beginning with iremythpurr, my question is, what the fuck am I blocked for? Was it because I've posted a couple of clips, 3 in fact, outlining why I think anti-natalism is not a philosophy? It's in fact a psychopathology, a bunch of subclinical, semi-suicidally, endogenously depressed individuals who want to project their miserable view of the universe onto everybody else who's alive. Is that why you blocked me? Or have you blocked me because of the comment I left on one of your threads concerning rape? I'm pretty sure I left a comment there where I pointed out that if rape is defined as having sex with somebody because you're forced to and you would otherwise not wish to have sex with them because you don't like them that much, then if somebody pays another individual to have sex with them in spite of the fact that they don't like them enough to want to have sex, then the prostitute, in accepting the payment for sex, is accepting a bribe in order to not report the rape. Is that what pissed you off? Did you think that was some kind of a male chauvinistic sexist comment? Because Remy, if that's what you think, I've got to explain to you the error of your ways. I am a celibate vegetarian poet. I live on this Endangered Species Sanctuary that I pay the rates on. And yes, I was raised as a male chauvinist pig, but the training didn't take. You see, when I was 18, I used to sell joyride tickets for Australia's first woman with a commercial helicopter licence. And then I trained as a student nurse. There were 96 women, 3 men and 1 spare room in the nurses' home at the base hospital where I began my training. I've lived in a women's world. I know what it's like to be the token male, and I'm no longer a male chauvinist pig. Okay? I have what I think of as a balanced view. Now Remy, regards your clip, OWS, Occupy Wall Street, and other stuff, I must disagree with what you have to say about violence. if you are advocating violence to the protesters, you're just telling them to go and get their heads caved in with batons, to be tear gassed and pepper sprayed after having violently justified the police in doing it, in the eyes of the police. They are hoping and waiting for the protesters to step out of line in order to justify this horrible crap. It's why they have agent provocateurs out there, to be seen throwing a brick at a policeman so that the water cannons and the tear gas and the pepper spray can be, quote, justified on Fox News, Faux News, Feral Fox News, whatever you want to call it. Think of Socrates. It is better to suffer evil than it is to commit evil. Now, Remy, moving on to the subject of misogyny and misanthropy, and why it is that so many women have such a low opinion of men, and so many men have such a low opinion of women. Look at it like this, Remy. 60% of the men in the world believe that all women are bitches under the skin. And they honestly think that if you scratch a woman, you're going to injure a bitch. It is merely the depth that varies, all right? All of their experience has taught them to think like that. Meanwhile, 60% of the women in the world believe that all men consist of a life support system for a cock with a wallet attached. And their attitude is, if they put up with one, then they get to play with the other. And in my experience, those two 60% subsets of humanity, they go out and they breed with each other. They form miserable Brady-Bunches in the sheepherbs. They have 1.8 children each to 2.3 partners each, and they become individually responsible for 4.14 cranky bastards. That's what happens. Which leaves another 40% of the population. Now 10%, at least 8 to 12%, are gay. They're not breeding at all. Another 10% are celibate for whatever reason. So we have 20% of the humans on planet Earth may be breeding for reasons that may perhaps possibly make sense. And even they and their children are up against a phenomenon of embryology. I'm going to have to show you a diagram here. Hang on a second. If you have sufficient DNA to build a complete human, 22 chromosomes plus XX, what you wind up with is a female. If you have 22 plus XY, insufficient amount of data, you wind up with a male. And yes, I know it says 23 plus XX and 23 plus XY. You get that. Occasionally notes go wrong. But I'm pretty sure there are in fact 23 pairs of chromosomes in the human genome, regardless of what was written in the notes. The point that I wanted to elaborate on is that if you don't have enough material to construct a normal human fetus, you build as far as you've got plans for, and then you hypertrophy or you enlarge the otherwise incomplete fetus, so that instead of building ovaries, which on the day of birth have 5,000 primary oocytes ready to go each side, you build testicles. And after puberty, those testicles are going to produce sperms, but they don't do anything on the day the kid's born. Instead of building a uterus, you'll build a prostate. Instead of building a clitoris, you'll enlarge it and build a penis, and you'll stick the urethra up the centre of the penis if you get it all correct. So it means, iremythpurr, that your stock standard bog normal human male is actually an overgrown, incomplete, immature female fetus. And men kind of sense that when they're born, and because they sense it, they grow up with an inferiority complex. And some blokes let the inferiority complex become overcompensated, and they try to prove that they are bigger and tougher and stronger than the women who can birth babies after growing babies and then feed babies. And that's going to be a long-standing overcompensated inferiority complex. If a man tries to prove that he's got a better pain tolerance than a woman, sorry about that. Women are in fact able to do shit that men just can't do. And if you want to ponder a really, really ridiculous, sad ending to it, it's the women who decide that they want to be just like the men that they can't stand. so they shave their head, and unlike a dachshund, they don't train themselves to walk backwards, but they get around with big muscles after bodybuilding, and they wear leather jackets. Some of them ride motorcycles, and they're constantly trying to prove that they're as big and tough and strong as the men who are trying to prove that they're as big and tough and strong as the women. So you've got this circular pseudo-logical feedback loop of horrible behaviour, and both sides are trying to outmatch each other. In my view, from what I can see. So that's iremythpurr. Now for tickety-boo-boo. What the hell happened to you? I mean that, boo-boo, what happened? After you blocked me, I kept a bit of an eye out for your clips, and I tried to leave comments, and about half of the comments that I tried to leave were actually favourable comments to you, but, you know, because I'm blocked, you wouldn't know that. And then all of a sudden, Fedia82 comes up with a clip that announces that your channel has been taken down and suspended because somebody's flagged you for violence. You? Violence? Tickety, my impression is that you enjoy your moral high ground so much that you wouldn't give up the political correctness involved in making a threat of violence. So what the bloody hell happened there? There's a character called Barklord who reckons that someone called Snorkel Dorkel sent him a PM telling him that you and Gary want to see Barklord hurt. I'm wondering, mate, is that the alleged violence that you've been flagged for, something cooked up by Snorkel Dorkel? The kangaroo feeder just doesn't underconstumble. But Tickety, that's not the only thing I don't underconstumble. When I saw your 3-part 42-minute rebuttal of my original 15-minute clip saying that I think anti-natalism is a psychopathology, I didn't realise that you had kids. I discovered that reading one of your clip descriptions later on. Tell me, Tickety, what are you going to do to explain anti-natalism to your children when they say, "Mummy, what's all this stuff that you make movies about in the middle of the night?" How are you going to explain to them, Tickety, that your philosophical position is that they would be better off never having been born because their life is going to consist of nothing but suffering? Suffering is all that they've got to look forward to. No bloody wonder you got a raccoon mask from eating Prozac, you poor little bugger. Why don't you just ditch this anti-natalism shit and get on with being a parent? The big challenge when you're a parent, Tickety, is to be less dysfunctional than your own parents were. That's all you've got to do. Just be better raising your kids than the people who raised you were. It's not that bloody hard. A little bit selfless perhaps, but you know, it's a good project. Try and raise your kids to be happy, to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So that's tickety-boo-boo. Now, Gary, inmendham, suffering sucks, do not God, gloom, boom, doom, injustice foremost. Gary, I got to say, I empathise with you. I look at you and I think there, but for the grace of God theory, go I. You, old mate, are an atheist. You've studied a fair bit of physics and chemistry. I am a comparative theologist, and I've studied a lot of biology and a lot of social studies, as well as nursing. And whereas I'm 50, you're looking as if you're somewhere between 30 and 50, so I might be old enough to be your father, or maybe we're the same age. I don't know. My father was 52 when I was born, Gary, so not only did the sperm that made me have short telomeres, because old men make bad sperm, but it's going to be another 15 months or so before I'm as old as Dad was when I started role modelling on him, so I don't yet know how to be a grown-up adult male. But it seems to me, mate, that anybody who's capable of launching a lawsuit and then not turning up in court because they suffer from an anxiety disorder should just admit it when somebody like me says anti-natalism is a function of your personal psychopathology. You might have had a miserable childhood, you might be convinced that life is nothing but suffering, but you are not entitled to project that worldview onto the rest of the universe. To claim otherwise is rationalisation and denial on top of your projection. And rationalisation and denial, Gary, are the two most unhealthy ego defence mechanisms in the psychiatric textbook. Ciao.